Welcome to Join Our Town, and I'm your host, Mitchell Taylor. And our topic today is crime. And we're also going to be dealing with specifically human trafficking in New York City. Very interesting and obscure subject. We're joined today by the founder of Walk by Faith, Michael Matthew Groce.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
You. Nice to meet you.
And so what is human trafficking? We were talking a little bit earlier, and I said, you know, I didn't know that human trafficking was so prevalent here in New York City. So,
Yes.
But why don't you first start out by talking about what is human trafficking?
Well, human trafficking is one of the most illegal but yet profitable business that's going around in the world today. And mainly is dealing with young teenagers, preferably women, you could say. And they're tricked into this act because they are offered like good jobs. They're offered to travel. And so basically what goes on behind human trafficking is that they're being offered for sexual acts, you could say. And some of them are beyond their will. They don't have the power to say no. They get in like too deep, and then sometimes they threaten their family. So it's kind of like when they get in, they don't know how to get out. So that's basically what human trafficking is, just a profitable business that's been going on for a long time.
Well, what is the effect of human trafficking on the victims? What is the effect on them?
There's many effects. For example, depression, because some of them, after they get in so long and when they get out, their mindset is so different. They have depression, dealing with trust issues. They don't want to feel open anymore because they felt like they gave their trust to this person and then they violated them in the wrong way. So, you know, post-traumatic stress syndrome, for example. So there's many effects that come from just this one act of human trafficking.
And many of the women that you've come in contact with and did research on, are these women trying to escape after being involved with this market, or do they just stay in the business?
Most of them try to escape, but the risk is so dangerous that when they try to escape,
keep talking.
When they try to escape, that it's so dangerous. They threaten to cut their arm. They threaten to use violent force against them. So most of them try to stay in it, although in their heart, they want to be able to come out of it.
Right, right. Well, tell me this. How is it in New York City? What's the impact? How is it prevalent here in New York City?
Well, the impact is great in New York City, but I don't think that it's open to everybody, because I don't think like a lot of people know much about human trafficking. There was, for instance, a family in Queens who was doing human trafficking, and nobody really knew. They post flyers about it and everything, but it's only when they got caught that people knew. And for me, I could say that human trafficking doesn't really have a heartbeat in New York City. It's not really alive as it should be. Like, we focus on cancer, we focus on AIDS, but this is also as serious as AIDS and as cancer and as many other diseases, but it's up to us to just get the word out to let people know about it.
Now, how different is human trafficking from prostitution? How does that correlate?
Well, I could say the kind of correlation is with the sex part, with the being used against their will part. Some people, they feel like if their family's into it, they might, you know, get tossed into, maybe their mother was in prostitution, so the child feel like, well, if my mother did it, let me do it. They think that they look at the outward part without looking at the inward part. They look at the fact that, you know, there's money involved, there's all this fame involved, and that's what I think the correlation between most of them is just that.
Right. So are there any laws in place in New York City about human trafficking?
Yes, one of the laws is the New York Anti-Trafficking Law, which went into effect on November 2007. And what it says, if you are convicted of sex trafficking, it's a Class B felony. You get up to 25 years in prison. And aside from that, they also have you to pay back $5,000 to the defendant, or double about what they made in, you know, while they were being profited. And even with labor trafficking, there's laws against that, but it's kind of lenient in a way, because sex trafficking is 25 years in prison, whereas labor trafficking is 7 years in prison. But it still has the same outcome. You still got to pay back the defendant. So there are laws, but I believe it needs to get stricter. There need to be like more tougher laws so that the people who are doing this could be afraid, because most of them are not afraid. They're just getting people as they come along.
And so if convicted of human trafficking, the maximum punishment is 25 years?
Yes, 25 years.
Wow, wow. What are ways to prevent human trafficking? I mean, I know that You're actively out there, you know, working on that, and we're going to talk more about that in a second. But what are some of the ways that we can prevent human trafficking?
I think try to prevent it by just mainly speaking out. There's a lot of organizations, for example, New York City Urban Project, you could call 311. They have different hotlines that if you feel that somebody is being human trafficking, you could try to stop it to prevent it. But like I said, like these resources are not really available as they should be. So most people don't really know about it. So it's up to us to try to get the word out, to let people know even if you feel like they are being victim of it, or if you know somebody who's in it, it doesn't hurt to try to help them to bring them out of it, because they want to come out, but they can't come out. They don't know how to.
Now, human trafficking is a little bit different than prostitution in the fact that, you know, it's interstate, right?
Right.
You're bringing people into New York City from other areas. That's why you're calling it human trafficking.
Yes.
And these women are not familiar with New York.
Right.
And they're under the control of whoever is bringing them.
Right.
Wow. So tell us about Walk by Faith and what that is.
Well, Walk by Faith, me and my sister started it last year, actually. So this is like a 1-year anniversary of it. And the focus of it when we started was to raise awareness, raise funds about social injustice and illnesses and disabilities that's going along. For example, last year we focused on autism. Autism is kind of like a neurodevelopmental disorder that children have where their communication is different than most children. And through that, we did a fashion show. We raised funds for Autism Speaks, a nonprofit organization. And we're still working closely with them, but now the focus has changed because we did like the disability part, but now we just want to broaden it to social injustice, to let people know that we are here to help them.
Right, right. So how did you get involved? You seem like a very young fella. I mean, what made you, you know, how did this, you know, most time people do not launch initiatives unless they have some personal experience.
Right.
So what was yours?
Mainly doing research. I have friends who always did like papers on human trafficking. So I said, well, let me look into it. I wasn't really interested before, but now I see like the dangers of it, the risks that it has. People sometimes end up murdered, killed about it. So it's just something that is striking inside of me that is passionate, and I wanted to get the word out.
So what's next? What's your next big initiative, your next big push to raise the awareness on human trafficking and continue your interventions? What do you have on docket?
The next thing, I'm working on a play that I'm writing, and the name of the play is called I Pray the Lord My Soul to Take. And so we want to do that probably like in March or April of next year. And just a little snippet about it. It's about a girl who, you know, lived with a good family. They offered her a job about traveling, and so she went into it, and not knowing what was really behind it, she got stuck into human trafficking.
So when they offered her a job but traveling, I mean, so how does that fly? I mean, if somebody told me, hey, I want to give you a job traveling, I'd be like, what? I mean, how do they package that?
They package it kind of like saying, well, I could show you the whole world. For example, I could take you to this place, Europe, for example, Asia. I could take you all around the world. I could give you money. I could give you stuff that your family probably can't provide for you. And so most people, they listen to that and they get enticed by it. And you know, some people really want what they're providing rather than not knowing what's really behind it.
But when they offer them these things, do they tell them that it'll be in exchange for sexual favors?
They don't tell them in the beginning. It's only when they actually get in it that they find out.
Now, I also remember reading that a lot of the human trafficking is influenced once they get the person or persons, they then get them hooked on some drug to create some chemical dependency. Do you find that a lot?
Oh, yes. Most of them are like opium, for example, different drugs that they put inside their system that, you know, make them fall asleep so they don't really know what's going on. They deprive them of sleep. They, you know, eating disorders that they have. So it's many health risks that is also tied to human trafficking.
Wow. So you find that many of the young people that you're coming into contact with have drug dependencies as well?
Yes.
And that's one way that they keep them engaged.
Right. Keep them engaged in human trafficking.
Wow. So now, what would you tell the audience? You're talking to a few million people right now. What would you tell the audience to do if they became aware of a human trafficking situation in their neighborhood, in their building, on their block? What should they do? What should they do? How do they even recognize that it's happening? And then what's the next step?
Well, I would tell them to contact 911, for example. Call 311. There's many different organizations that's out there. You could do research. It doesn't.
Well, no, people are not going to do research, right? So the easiest thing for them to do is what? Call 911 or 311?
Basically, yes. And through them, they have different hotlines, for example, that you could call, and they direct you to tell you what steps to take in order to prevent it or bring the person out of it.
Wow, wow. Well, listen, we have 30 seconds left. I want you to look into that camera right there, and I want you to talk to people in our audience that possibly have lost a child, to human trafficking, and tell them what they can do.
Well, if you lost a child to human trafficking, if you're a victim of human trafficking, I just want to tell you that you're not by yourself. There's a world of people who are out here who is pushing for you. We got resources. We want you to come out. We want everybody to live their best and positive life. And so it's up to us as children of God, and not only children of God, there's people living in the state, to tell the pharaohs of human trafficking that we had to let God's people go. And so it's up to us just to bring them out. And so you're not by yourself. There's always help around, and we're here to help any way we can.
Wow. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Michael Matthew Groce.
Yes.
Walk by Faith. Pleasure interviewing you today.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming to join our town.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and we'll be right back.
I wanted to be in the military since I was a kid.
I served in the United States Air Force.
I served a total of 16 years.
I was deployed 13 times.
On my second deployment, 4 bombs hit my vehicle.
And at 19 years old, that's the first time I ever saw somebody die.
Coming back, I was raging.
I started having pretty horrible nightmares.
I would wake up in the middle of the night, sweats.
I started drinking a lot.
I felt worthless.
I guess I never recognized it in myself.
Eventually, one day I just walked into the VA hospital and said I'd like to see somebody.
Don't suffer alone. You gotta find that link with somebody that'll make you let it go.
It all starts with going to the VA. There's a whole community of veterans that just want to help you out.
It's for the guys who couldn't come back, so you owe it to them to live well, because they're not here with their families.
So many kids' activities today seem to leave out the activity part. New research tells us that just getting children to walk an extra 35 minutes a day could spare them the pain of thinning bones later in life. Encourage your kids to get up, get out, and get moving.
Hello. Hey, Grandma, how about another grape soda?
A public service message on building strong bones for kids from the Pediatric Orthopedic Society of North America and the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
Welcome back to Join Our Town, and I'm your host, Mitchell Taylor. And our topic today is substance abuse. And we're talking about what makes an addict. And we're joined today by the author of The Problem Was Me, Thomas Gagliano. Thank you so much for being with us on Join Our Town.
Thanks for having me.
This is a very fascinating subject, not only fascinating because it impacts so many people in our families, in our communities, and what are the factors in childhood, I'm trying to get to the genesis, that contribute to addictive thinking?
The most important factor is whether or not the child grows up in an addictive household. If the child if a learned behavior is addiction, a way to cope with problems, a way to celebrate victories, if the caregivers or parents are addicts, the child will have this learned behavior that the addiction becomes a solution to life. It's very important to understand human development, first of all. Children are egocentric. The world revolves around them. If a parent doesn't give a child the proper nurturing or attention, the child doesn't have the ability to say, oh, my father or mother or aunt or uncle are busy. Instead, they say, what's wrong with me? I'm defective. I'm not worthy. And if you throw on top of that abuses, physical, mental, sexual abuses, well, there's going to be a real damage there. And that damage, it needs to be fixed at some point, or there's going to be destructive behavior that follows. I could tell you, for me, a little bit about myself and a little bit about my experience with helping many thousands of addicts. And addicts, when somewhere in their childhood, tough things happen to them. They become legitimate victims. Things happen to them that weren't fair, things they didn't deserve. But they develop this victim mentality, I call it, or this victim role, where they want the world to pay the bill for what happened to them as a child. And when the world doesn't cooperate, they become very angry and they distrust people. People are not really ever going to get close to them. And from there, a destructive entitlement occurs, where they give themselves permission to act in ways where they hurt themselves and others. They really lose empathy for themselves, and they lose empathy for others. When these things happen, eventually, they're going to go into isolation and really lead a very secluded life. I could tell you, for me, in childhood, my father was an alcoholic, and if he didn't come home at a certain time, it meant he was going to come home drunk. And if he came home drunk, it meant he would hurt someone. So as a kid, I learned these control techniques, characteristics, if you will. I had to make sure that when he came home, my mother was in a safe place, my brothers were in a safe place, I was in a safe place. So control to me as a kid was linked to survival. It was very important. As I grew up, control became a character defect. People don't like to be controlled. So what starts in a childhood as a self-survival technique later becomes a character defect. Many addicts are very selfish people, self-centered. Not because they want to be, because in childhood they developed the characteristic that I need to take care of myself, nobody else will. So they become self-centered. But it's survival. It's not to hurt others. As they grow older, that selfishness becomes a character defect. People don't like selfish, self-centered people. Wow. But do you see how it starts out from a safety place, but then becomes a character defect? And if they don't work on that, what happens is they're just going to go from one addiction to another. You'll go from alcohol to drugs to gambling and not understand why it happened. When one addiction becomes so unmanageable that you can't do it anymore, if you don't fix the damage inside, you pop to another one. And that's what a lot of people do. And we know these addicts wear all kinds of masks. There's actors and actresses, brain surgeons, and there's the people that live on the street, homeless. The outsides are all different, but the insides are the same. All the same, a damage inside.
Wow. Are there certain instances when addiction intensifies?
One of the time periods where it intensifies is during adolescence. The child, when they become an adolescent, the handcuffs come off. They're able to get to certain things that they couldn't get to in childhood, and that's when really the freedom gets them in more trouble. Another time that it intensifies is during relationships. You know, we know in the dictionary, intimacy means closeness, love, warmth. It's a very positive definition, but not for children that grew up in very tough childhoods. Intimacy to them is fearful, is scary, is something that they want to avoid because they've seen that it creates hurt and pain. So as that person gets to become a teenager or early 20s and becomes intimate with people, what also occurs is anxiety builds up, fear builds up, which intensifies the need to go to the substance to ease that fear and ease that pain. So again, it's the version of intimacy that child gets is very different from the version of intimacy that we know of. And the final time I believe it intensifies is during the holidays. Holidays are a wonderful time of the year for many of us, but for some of us, the holidays bring up uncomfortable feelings because we go back to our family of origin and we go back to the roles that we were set up to play by that family. And the addictive victim role is just one of many roles that I talk about in my book that come up.
Wow. So in your book, good segue, you discuss the roles we set up to play by our childhood messages. I mean, talk a little bit about that. One of these roles, a role of an addict?
Yeah, I think addicts play the victim role. They want to blame others, and it gives them the permission then to say, look what this world's doing to me. I can go do these things. I can go drink more, drug more, do these things more. But there's many different roles. How many of you viewers today are playing the role of the caretaker, where they take the world on their back? And a caretaker doesn't know how to ask for help. When they ask for help, they feel so guilty. Set up by childhood messages. The people pleaser who says yes all the time because it's too painful to say no. What inner voice or little voice inside of them is telling them that saying no means they're a bad person? You have a defiant role where people just always want to be different and want to be right. They're the rebels of the world. They want to be right even if it means they push others away. And then there's the invisible role, where people lose themselves in their relationship. They lose their voice, they lose their identity, and they disappear. These are just but some of the roles that are set up by the messages we receive from our higher powers or our caregivers.
Wow. We were talking earlier, and you said that your wife loved the title of your book, The Problem Was Me.
Yes. Yes. Well, it took time to come up with a name for my book. There's a Dr. Abraham Twersky who's also with me on the book, and I had the manuscript all set, and I couldn't come up with a name. And every time I would walk in and give her a name, she would do this kind of posture, if you will. And I finally, one night, I said, I got it. The problem was me. And I walked into the bedroom. I said, Sue, the problem was me. And she said, you got that right. And that's how I came to name the book, The Problem Was Me.
So what was your aha moment in life? I mean, obviously you have a testimony that you could share with the millions of viewers that are looking and seeing you today. What was your aha moment?
I believe it happened with my father in a hospital. I didn't have a great relationship with my father, but he became a different person. He went into recovery, he went into retreats, he became just a good person, a great grandfather to my children, loving grandfather. But to me, I had a lot of problems with him, and I went to visit him one night in the hospital. He had stomach cancer, he was very ill, and the cancer had spread all over, and he was all hooked up, and I went to see him one night, and as we spoke, I got up to leave, and he said, Tommy, sit down here, I want to tell you something. He says, you know, my father was dying of lung cancer 20 years ago. I never was able to tell my father that I loved him. I was never able to tell my father that I cared. And he says, I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want you to live with that pain. And you know, my father was able to see my pain, even with the pain that he was going through at the time. And when I got up from the hospital, the chair that day, I went to touch his hand to say goodbye, and he grabbed me and he pulled me close and he started to cry. And I had never seen my father cry. Well, I shouldn't say that. The only time I saw my father cry is when he was drunk and he would hurt us, and then he would ask for forgiveness in a crying, drunken mode. But these were sincere tears. And as I remember leaving the hospital room feeling distraught, I started to communicate with him more. He died about 2 weeks later, and my mother had given me this book with his journals in it. And I was reading the journals, this is after he passed away, and I started to see that my father wasn't a 10-foot monster. You know, he was a guy like myself, full of fears, full of destructive inner messages from his childhood. He was me and I was him, really. And I think that really freed me from so much of the self-hate I had for myself that I threw onto him. And when it freed me, I really went into helping other people. First, I worked on my damage, as I said earlier. I had to do that. I had to find out what was broken inside of me in order to know it had to be fixed. And then I started to work on my damage. But I think that moment really, he freed me. He freed me from a lot of the self-hate I had for myself. So
now, did you have a substance abuse challenge yourself?
Not me. I was a womanizer, compulsive gambler, compulsive worker. My father and my brothers have substance abuse problems. The reason why I believe I never did is because I hated alcohol so much as a kid. I used to flush the bottles all down the sink every day, that I looked at alcohol with such hatred that I would never drink. So instead, unfortunately, not fixing the damage, I found some other way to act out my feelings.
And would you say that, based on the other question I asked you about addiction and the genesis of addiction, would you say that because addiction was prevalent in your family construct, that you were trending towards some form of addiction, and is that common?
Very common. Again, it's a learning behavior. You know, if mom and dad use addiction as a way to cope with life's problems, or even celebrate good times, you know, the child is going to learn that behavior and go in that direction. Much easier than if it wasn't there.
I got you. So how do you help others?
Well, when I started to fix that damage, I started to run groups in churches and schools in my house free of charge. And what I did is I started with the destructive messages. What were the messages in your life that led you to act out in destructive ways? Let's get rid of them. Let's bring them to the light and expose them. So I did this in groups. and I call this inner critic the warden. It's that little voice inside of us that we all have to some extent, constantly knocking us down, telling us that we can't allow people close to us. We sabotage our relationships. We're not allowed to stumble in life. We're not allowed to make a mistake. If we make a mistake, we are a mistake. We got to get rid of that voice by bringing it to the surface. So awareness is the first step. And after that, I later went back to school. Graduated a couple of years ago with my master's at Rutgers.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My book came out, and now I do this. I run groups, do consulting to marriages so that they can give their children some of the positive messages that might have been denied to them. Right. And I do this individually, too.
Wow. There's a fictitious character that you call Warden. Right. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. You know, the warden gets created in a destructive childhood, in a belief system where the person believes that they're not, as I said, they're not allowed to stumble in life. A warden is that inner critic that just beats the person down. And if you don't expose that inner critic, it will guide you towards destructive actions. So what I do talk about in my book is my life story and the story of other people that in my groups have exposed that inner critic so they could stop listening to that warden's commands and be who they want to be, not who they were set up to be. And that's really the big message in my book.
Now, you know, when I was reading that, I was intrigued because it almost looks like the perfectionist complex. The perfectionist complex, and I know you know about that, you never satisfy yourself. You know, when you go up to the next round, you're not high enough. You got to keep going higher and higher and higher.
And that is one of the roles, a perfectionist role. You know, those are the individuals that sometimes don't try in life because they feel if they can't be perfect, they can't do it at all. Why even try? And yeah, I had some of that role. These roles, you could be a mixture of a few, and the perfectionist role is, what if I stumble? What if I make a mistake? Right. And at the end of the day, a perfectionist will only think about all they've done wrong. They won't celebrate what they've done right. And that's the warden again, telling you all the things you've done wrong.
Wow. Well, we got about a minute left, and there's about 3 million people looking at us right now. I want you to look into your camera, and I want you to talk to some people that may be struggling with how to help someone that's addicted. They don't maybe not know how to approach them and, you know, tell them they need help. Maybe you can give them some basic tenets that might help them get through this initial introduction to this nuance of addiction in their family.
Well, first of all, become aware of your shortcomings. It's hard to help our children or others out if we're not working on our character defects. And when you go to change actions in your life, it becomes a we process, not a me process. Solicit the help of others. Those in your life that are loving people, don't solicit the help of those that are going to judge you or make you feel worse. But go to people that you're safe with, people that you know are there for you. And the last tip is maintain those different actions. Because as I say in my book, if you don't, that warden's gonna come back and tell you what to do again, and you don't want that to happen. So allow others to help you, those loving and trusting people in your life that you know are there for you.
Tom, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I know many people were helped by this interview on today, so thank you for being a great contributor.
Thank you, Richard.
To Join Our Town.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll see you next time. Okay. Join Our Town.
By your telethon dollars, your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town coming to your home every week. Write to Joy in Our Town, Post Office Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovery of sight to the blind, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. Today, this scripture is fulfilled in your ears.
This is the Trinity Broadcasting Network.